Okay, back together with Screwtape. So we finished up with 5 last time, looking at going into 6, maybe 7. As I've said before, two meaty letters. If we get into 8, then all the better. It's another meaty one, but really starts rolling along now. And some of the topics that Screwtape starts tipping are pretty significant. So let me grab this up for us that I had it keyed up, and of course it went away when I keyed up Ren. But it only took me a second. There we go. Start yet?
Letter 6.
All right, there's letter 6. All right, here we go. If that's it. There we go.
Letter 6. My dear Wormwood, I am delighted to hear that your patient's age and profession make it possible, but by no means certain, that he will be called up for military service. We want him to be in the maximum uncertainty, so that his mind will be filled with contradictory pictures of the future, every one of which arouses hope or fear. There is nothing like suspense and anxiety for barricading a human's mind against the enemy. He wants men to be concerned with what they do. Our business is to keep them thinking about what will happen to them. Your patient will, of course, have picked up the notion that he must submit with patience to the enemy's will. What the enemy means by this is primarily that he should accept with patience the tribulation which has actually been dealt out to him, the present anxiety and suspense. It is about this that he is to say, "Thy will be done," and for the daily task of bearing this, that the daily bread will be provided. It is your business to see that the patient never thinks of the present fear as his appointed cross, but only of the things he is afraid of. Let him regard them as his crosses. Let him forget that, since they are incompatible, they cannot all happen to him. And let him try to practice fortitude and patience to them all in advance. For real resignation at the same moment to a dozen different and hypothetical fates is almost impossible. And the enemy does not greatly assist those who are trying to attain it. Resignation to present and actual suffering, even where that suffering consists of fear, is far easier and is usually helped by this direct action. An important spiritual law is here involved. I have explained that you can weaken his prayers by diverting his attention from the enemy himself to his own states of mind about the enemy. On the other hand, fear becomes easier to master when the patient's mind is diverted from the thing feared to the fear itself, considered as a present and undesirable state of his own mind. And when he regards the fear as his appointed cross, he will inevitably think of it as a state of mind. One can therefore formulate the general rule: in all activities of mind which favor our cause, encourage the patient to be unself-conscious and to concentrate on the object. But in all activities favorable to the enemy, bend his mind back on itself. Let an insult or a woman's body so fix his attention outward that he does not reflect, "I am now entering into the state called anger," or the state called lust. Contrariwise, let the reflection, "My feelings are now growing more devout or more charitable," so fix his attention inward that he no longer looks beyond himself to see our enemy or his own neighbors. As regards his more general attitude to the war, You must not rely too much on those feelings of hatred which the humans are so fond of discussing in Christian or anti-Christian periodicals. In his anguish, the patient can, of course, be encouraged to revenge himself by some vindictive feelings directed towards the German leaders, and that is good so far as it goes. But it is usually a sort of melodramatic or mythical hatred directed against imaginary scapegoats. He's never met these people in real life. They are lay figures modeled on what he gets from the newspapers. The results of such fanciful hatred are often most disappointing. And of all humans, the English are, in this respect, the most deplorable milksops. They are creatures of that miserable sort who loudly proclaim that torture is too good for their enemies, and then give tea and cigarettes to the first wounded German pilot who turns up at the back door. Do what you will, there is going to be some benevolence, as well as some malice, in your patient's soul. The great thing is to direct the malice to his immediate neighbors, whom he meets every day, and to thrust his benevolence out to the remote circumference, to people he does not know. The malice thus becomes wholly real, and the benevolence largely imaginary. There is no good at all in inflaming his hatred of Germans if, at the same time, a pernicious habit of charity is growing up between him and his mother, his employer, or the man he meets in the train. Think of your man as a series of concentric circles, his will being the innermost, his intellect coming next, and finally, his fantasy. You can hardly hope at once to exclude from all the circles everything that smells of the enemy. But you must keep on shoving all the virtues outward till they are finally located in the circle of fantasy, and all the desirable qualities inward into the will. It is only insofar as they reach the will and are there embodied in habits that the virtues are really fatal to us. I don't, of course, mean what the patient mistakes for his will, the conscious fume and fret of resolutions and clenched teeth, but the real center, what the enemy calls the heart. All sorts of virtues, painted in the fantasy or approved by the intellect, or even in some measure loved and admired, will not keep a man from our Father's house. Indeed, they may make him more amusing when he gets there. Your affectionate Uncle Screwtape.
All right. Oh, so much. Don't know where. All right. What did you hear?
I don't know. It was so much.
There was so much. There's a central theme. Remember, I told you when we started. There's a theme to all these letters, and sometimes it's easy to pick out. Sometimes a little bit harder. This one it moves around pretty much the same theme that goes in. I like the concentric circle image when it gets to the end, the fantasy on the outside, the intellect, and then the will at the inside. As he said earlier that in prior letters that the war is not a big deal. Remember he said the war as it is they come and go, who cares? Of course, it's in World War II. The reason why he said that is because the Screwtape only cares about whatever the influence is, whatever the stimulus is on the patient, on the person. So if it's not a will, if it's not the war right now, it's going to be the unreasonable boss. If it's not the war right now, it's going to be the 45-minute traffic jam on the freeway to get to work, and all of the people giving you the finger on the way and cutting you off and going too slow and driving on the shoulder. And if it's not the war, it's going to be, unexplained problems between you and your wife or a husband or parent or child. If it's not the war, it's going to be health issues. It's everything is fodder for a Screwtape. He doesn't care about where the stimulus comes from, just so long as the stimulus is there, and everything can be used to his advantage. So that's why he's saying, to Screwtape earlier, he said, don't put too much faith in this war thing. Bad things happen in war, like people go the other way. So just think about the patient in a much smaller way. Look at just everything as grist for the mill. He says, he starts this off by saying, God wants men to be concerned with what they do. Our business is to keep them thinking about what will happen to them. So the whole theme of this letter is about the reality of living in the minute and the moment at this moment in time versus the fantasy or the fiction of what might happen or could be or what if later on. That's why he begins to talk about fear. He says, what the enemy means by this, primarily that he should accept the patience and tribulation which has actually been dealt out to him in the present. It is about this that he has to say, thy will be done, the daily task of bearing this, that the daily bread is provided for. It is your business to see the patient never thinks of the present fear that is appointed, but only about the things he is afraid of. Great line. So I am worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, and I'm all worried and afraid of what's going to happen, and I focus in on being afraid. I focus in on the fear, on the feeling of being afraid, the feeling. Someone says, "Are you okay?" And I answer, I just can't settle down. I'm just afraid. All of my attention is focused in now on my fear, and it's observable to the other person, and when I'm questioned, that's what I share. I share my fear. And then they say, "Why are you afraid?" And then I tell them of the circumstance, some blah blah blah, and then tell them about what's going to happen tomorrow, the terrible thing, and how it's really got me racked up. And we've all done this. And then our friend or someone tries to tell us, "Well, maybe it won't happen. Maybe that won't go that way. You should calm down. Think of something else." So they're trying to get us back from the fiction of the future to the reality of the moment. And in the reality of the moment, this is hard to grasp if we are a people that do this. If I am prone to doing this, and someone says what I'm going to say, it may not make any sense. And that's that the present time, the present moment, the fear in the present moment is choosable. I can choose not to be afraid. And how that happens is I can choose not to think about the fiction, not to entertain the idea of the fiction. If I'm not entertaining the idea of the fiction, then I'm living in the moment with the reality of the thing. And what's the reality of the thing? It's just what it is. It's what it is right now at 9 o'clock at night. I've told you the story, I won't belabor, about the guy here in Mechanicsville who was killed. A long backstory, I won't bother you with it, but he was worried about getting a promotion. He worked in Richmond. This is long, it's about 25 years ago. He was having marital problems with his wife. That's how I knew them. He came home on a Friday. He was very angry because he thought that this other guy is going to get the promotion that he's supposed to get. He'd been passed over promotion a couple times, and later on, I found out that when he got home, that 3 hours at home before he went to bed was horrible. He yelled at his kid, he yelled at his dog, he yelled at his wife. Everything was bad, everything was wrong, and he got up early in the morning on Saturday and he left to go to work on Saturday to get more stuff done, so that on Monday, when the promotion time came, he could get his promotion. And he left, and he was killed in a car accident on the way downtown. So two things happened from that. One, the last memory, the last thing, the last experience that he gave his son and his wife and his dog was that he was this mean guy who was intemperate and blameworthy and just not a nice person. That's the little boy's memory of his dad. And all of it because he was so fraught about what was going to happen on Monday. Well, guess what? Nothing happened on Monday because he was dead. So if he had gone home and been loving to his wife and to his son and played with his dog and lived in the moment, like this is the only moment I have right now to play with my son and my dog, and get his wife to sit down and have a really good night and be well together. And then he got up the next morning and he went and kissed his son while he's asleep, and he petted the dog and he said goodbye to his wife, and he got in the car and he went out and he got killed. He would have at least spent the night before living in the moment, and he didn't do that. He lived in the fantasy of what was going to happen on Monday, and nothing happened on Monday. So whenever we do this, Jesus talks about this. He says to us in the scripture, you only have the moment to live in. You have to live in the moment, because the other moments are not here. They may never happen. You may never have another moment. This is the only moment you've got. You have to live in this moment right now, 100% in this moment. He does this on the Sermon on the Mount. He says, the birds of the air, they don't worry about what they're going to wear. The lilies of the field, they don't worry what they're going to do. And of course, Jesus is taking this. You're saying, well, I'm not a flower. Flowers don't have a brain. But what Jesus is doing is he's taking our complex and complicated thought process and boiling it down and saying, who's better off than you with all of your great big brain where you can think of all kind of stuff? This little flower that doesn't have a brain. And this little bird whose brain is as big as a pencil eraser. Because they're not worried about tomorrow. They're living 100% right now in the moment. And they are loving, they're prospering, they're blooming, they're singing, they're flying. And look at that. Don't you want to be like that? So Jesus says this more than one way in the scripture. So you have to live in the moment. So now we have Screwtape saying that's exactly what he doesn't want us to do. He wants us to live in the future, and later on say in the past. Either way is better. The past is not as pleasant as the future. It wants more people in the future because it's so uncertain. The past is concrete. We can just make a bigger deal about it. Always live in the fantasy. That's why he wants everything to go out to that fantasy ring. Everything that we have. I'm going to have friends over for dinner, but what if I burn it? What if something doesn't turn out? So now I'm all tied up in a knot before my friends come over because I'm worried that something's going to happen to the food. And then they get here and it's fine. Well, I just wasted a whole lot of energy on nothing. Concentrate on the object. And all like, so he says, this is a great thing. This is, what's it called? The golden medium. Aristotle had this, this philosophy of the golden medium. It's really, he put it in the Nicomachean Ethics in his book. How we say we're always trying to find the middle? The middle is the perfect place, like between hot and cold, you want to be right in the middle. The golden medium says that the medium, the middle part, the medium part is not necessarily in the middle. The best part that separates the two ends may be closer to one side than the other. So we cannot be afraid of understanding the value of the circumstance and knowing that we need to move the circumstance to get the golden medium here. It's like having a stick we think is this long, and so we put the middle right here, and then you learn that the stick is that much longer. So the medium that you picked was the right medium. That's actually the right one right there in the middle. There's just more on one end now. It doesn't change the fact that that's the right place. So it doesn't have to be here. So this is, I think what Lewis is doing is he is tapping into the golden medium when he's talking about this. It's more movable. He says, one can therefore formulate the general rule: in all activities of mind which favor our cause, encourage the patient to be unselfish and to concentrate on the object. That's what he said later on. He said, if you're, for men, he said, if lusting after a woman, concentrate on the woman. Don't think about what you're thinking about. Think about what you're seeing. That's it. Don't think of anything else. He said, but in all activities favoring the enemy, bend his mind back on itself. So that means that when I see somebody who's dropped her groceries and I go over and help her pick her groceries up, he wants me thinking to myself, oh, I'm being a really nice guy. I'm picking up the groceries for this person, and aren't I terrific? And I'm being so generous and kind. Wow, I'm a nice guy. So it makes it taints it. I'm becoming this thing that's not honest with myself. And general attitude toward war, inward self, not inward self. This one about malice, the great line too. The malice has become wholly real, and the benevolence were largely imaginary. Make it so that well, he says it. Let's see. The great thing is to direct the malice to his immediate neighbors whom he meets every day, and to thrust the benevolence out to remote circumference. I've seen this. You guys have seen this, haven't you? You know somebody in your life at some point in time that was all involved in these civic events or international events or fundraisers or something, and they were all in there and they were all wonderful and they had all this energy for it. But when you talk to them about anything else, they weren't very nice people. They didn't, I mean, you just didn't want to be around them. They're negative. They always said nasty things, always looked at things from the wrong angle. They weren't pleasant. It was only out here, so that they lived their benevolence out here. They didn't point it toward the other people in their lives, and that makes their life bereft of the people that really matter. All right, finishing up the virtues. So that's the idea of this, the virtues. Being a better person. He said, that's where the intellect, when you start thinking about being a virtuous person, if you can name what that means, just keep that moving outward to the fantasy. Think about being the virtuous person and not really become that person at all. So, meaty, see, it's getting meaty. If you look at these letters, whenever we have these letters, you should pick, I do it all the time, pick you. Pick you in the letter. When you hear something that we're talking about and you're like, oh crud, that's me, don't let that go. Hang on to that and remember what we're doing, so that tonight, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, if you keep doing this, you'll break it. If you keep thinking about yourself in the letter, then you have the best opportunity to stop being like that, suffering from that and moving on. I think I've told you in the past, I've done this and I've realized, oh no, letter 4, I'm just like that, it's horrible. So I work really, really hard to do better and not be letter 4. And the horror is that I listen to it again, like with you guys right now, and I get to letter 4 and I'm like, oh, I made it, I'm good. But then the problem is I get to letter 6, crash and burn. So it's going to happen over and over again. All right,
I feel like I've asked you before, if the devil can read your mind. So does the devil know what you're thinking like God knows what you're thinking?
Yeah, there are 2 ways to look at it, and Lewis thought that the answer to that is yes. That what demons can't hear is actually God speaking. Like if God's talking to you, if you're hearing divine inspiration, Satan can't hear that. The devil can't hear it. But can we hear him? Can he hear us? Lewis says yes. Lewis says that's one of the purviews of being a celestial being, that they have that ability. In the same way that you think of the great saints throughout the ages who say that they clearly heard the speaking of celestial bodies, of deific bodies to them, encouraging them and pushing them. This is actually where the corruption of the idea of saints in the Roman Catholic Church. So the idea of lifting people up as saints, then later on people started thinking, well, they're worshiping saints. They're not worshiping saints, they're venerating the saints. They're saying these people are people that we should aspire to be like. Look at them, look what happened to them. This person right here heard the voice of God, or saw Mary, or heard other voices, not God and not Mary, but a divine emanation that influenced them, and they became a stellar human being because of it. So I don't, it's very complex. I think it's simple. I think we can make it simple and just say, yeah. I mean, if I always think yes, then I'm always aware that there's more going on than just me, and I can allude. He's going to talk about this later on, where he says I can just get tired of it and laugh and go about my business. This here in this book and other places, Lewis says that one thing the devil hates more than anything else in the entire universe, even more than God, is being laughed at. Laughter is an undoing thing. He's completely powerless in the face of laughter. If I am getting to the point where I'm laughing at it, think about when you're in an argument with somebody.
Mhm.
You're in an argument with somebody and you laugh at them. What happens next?
Ooh,
Bad.
it makes
Goes
it better.
sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things
You,
go really bad.
yeah, you wanna go from a small disagreement to a giant thing, you just laugh at the other person. I mean, it's something, if you stay in the argument may be on a scale of 1 to 12, it may be an 8 and just stay at an 8. But if you laugh at them, it's 12. It's right up there. Boom. So he's saying if you laugh at Satan, there's nothing he can do. You just unarm him, but hang in there because he's not going to forget it. So I laugh at him all the time. I realize what's going on and I think, oh my gosh, that's just pathetic. And have a good laugh and go about my business. And I have to tell you, it's very refreshing. I encourage you to try it. When you get in that Mobius strip of thought where you're angry or you're mulling or you're focused on something, you're like, just stop for a minute and think, this is a whole lot of mess that I'm doing, and just have a laugh at it. Like, this is so silly, and laugh. And it's, at least in my experience, it takes it away. It's like you took off a coat, boom, and now you're ready to go.
Well, it's really hard to laugh when people are dying. Like when I look at that conflict over in Israel and Palestine.
Well, I'm not talking about that.
I know, but what I'm talking about is like just, these people that are protesting over here today in this country about it. I can't laugh at them. I can't laugh at any of this. So
yeah, I wouldn't put it in that context. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about my own process. When I am contemplating something, or I'm thinking about a person, or a problem that I have that I'm starting to get stuck on and be introspective about and start to mull on. You get something stuck and you just can't, you're like, you wrestle with it. If you just look at it and say, what am I doing? Why am I stuck on this thing? And I laugh at myself being stuck on this thing, it will blow it apart. It'll dissipate it. I'm not suggesting that we laugh at,
no, I wasn't suggesting that either, but I'm just saying that a lot of this conflict that's going on right now, it's hard to just dismiss it with like, I'm just gonna, laugh it away or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject that into tonight's thing. And I get what you're saying, because it's more of an internal conflict that you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. All right. How about, should we move on? 7? You want to do 7? Let's see what time it is. We have plenty of time. Let's do 7. What do you think?
Good.
You good for it? All right.
Sure.
Yeah. 2. Let's see. There we go. That has 7. Right.
A 7. My dear Wormwood, I wonder you should ask me whether it is essential to keep the patient in ignorance of your own existence. That question, at least for the present phase of the struggle, has been answered for us by the High Command. Our policy, for the moment, is to conceal ourselves. Of course, this has not always been so. We are really faced with a cruel dilemma. When the humans disbelieve in our existence, we lose all the pleasing results of direct terrorism, and we make no magicians. On the other hand, when they believe in us, we cannot make them materialists and skeptics, at least not yet. I have great hopes that we shall learn in due time how to emotionalize and mythologize their science to such an extent that what is in effect a belief in us, though not under that name, will creep in while the human mind remains closed to belief in the enemy. The life force, the worship of sex, and some aspects of psychoanalysis may here prove useful. If once we can produce our perfect work, the materialist magician, the man not using but veritably worshipping what he vaguely calls forces, while denying the existence of spirits, then the end of the war will be in sight. But in the meantime, we must obey our orders. I do not think you will have much difficulty in keeping the patient in the dark. The fact that devils are predominantly comic figures in the modern imagination will help you. If any faint suspicion of your existence begins to arise in his mind, suggest to him a picture of something in red tights, and persuade him that since he cannot believe in that, it is an old textbook method of confusing them, he cannot therefore believe in you. I had not forgotten my promise to consider whether we should make the patient an extreme patriot or an extreme pacifist. All extremes, except extreme devotion to the enemy, are to be encouraged. Not always, of course, but at this period. Some ages are lukewarm and complacent, and then it is our business to soothe them yet faster asleep. Other ages, of which the present is one, are unbalanced and prone to faction, and it is our business to inflame them. Any small coterie, bound together by some interest which other men dislike or ignore, tends to develop inside itself a hothouse mutual admiration, and towards the outer world, a great deal of pride and hatred, which is entertained without shame because the cause is its sponsor and it is thought to be impersonal. Even when the little group exists originally for the enemy's own purposes, this remains true. We want the church to be small, not only that fewer men may know the enemy, but also that those who do may acquire the uneasy intensity and the defensive self-righteousness of a secret society or a clique. The church herself is, of course, heavily defended, and we have never yet quite succeeded in giving her all the characteristics of a faction. But subordinate factions within her have often produced admirable results, from the parties of Paul and of Apollos at Corinth down to the high and low parties in the Church of England. If your patient can be induced to become a conscientious objector, he will automatically find himself one of a small, vocal, organized, and unpopular society, and the effects of this on one so new to Christianity will almost certainly be good. But only almost certainly. Has he had serious doubts about the lawfulness of serving in a just war before this present war began? Is he a man of great physical courage? So great that he will have no half-conscious misgivings about the real motives of his pacifism? Can he, when nearest to honesty, no human is ever very near, feel fully convinced that he is actuated wholly by the desire to obey the enemy? If he is that sort of man, his pacifism will probably not do us much good, and the enemy will probably protect him from the usual consequences of belonging to a sect. Your best plan in that case would be to attempt a sudden, confused, emotional crisis from which he might emerge as an uneasy convert to patriotism. Such things can often be managed, but if he is the man I take him to be, try pacifism. But whichever he adopts, your main task will be the same. Let him begin by treating the patriotism or the pacifism as part of his religion. Then let him, under the influence of partisan spirit, come to regard it as the most important part. Then, quietly and gradually, nurse him onto the stage at which the religion becomes merely part of the cause, in which Christianity is valued chiefly because of the excellent arguments it can produce in favor of the British war effort or of pacifism. The attitude which you want to guard against is that in which temporal affairs are treated primarily as material for obedience. Once you have made the world an end and faith a means, you have almost won your man, and it makes very little difference what kind of worldly end he is pursuing, provided that meetings, pamphlets, policies, movements, causes, and crusades matter more to him than prayers and sacraments and charity. He is ours! And the more religious on those terms, the more securely ours. Oh, I could show you a pretty cage full down here. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
So good. So good.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have to agree with you. John Cleese is amazing in this.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So what'd you hear? What got you on that one? I think there's a lot in this one that matches where we are right now, sadly.
Yeah, they're talking about the pacifism thing. I think that was sticking out.
You know,
I'm not really sure what he was meaning by it, though.
oh, the patriotism versus pacifism.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so I
Make politics and your decision on war, how you feel about the war, more important than
yeah.
Okay.
relationship with God, and set your whatever you decide you are, pacifist or patriot, put that in with your God, and then make that more important than other aspects of your relationship with God.
And gravitate toward the thing that's going to have the most influence over you. That's why this guy is really strong. He's really, powerful. He's going to get into a clique, and instead of succumbing to the clique, he'll be the one that reforms it. So he's saying that's no good. That won't do us any good at all. If he's this other person, he can get into this group, then he will be, as a pacifist, be molded into the group as a pacifist. He'll become a pacifist to the group of pacifists. And that will become his world. John Wayne, believe it or not, did a record. Back in the day, all the stars used to do a record. They used to sing on the record, some absolutely ridiculous, horrible records out there. Like, you may have heard the one with Leonard Nimoy. And
I think I have heard that.
Spock.
Yeah, Spock and William Shatner both put out albums where they were singing. Can you imagine what that sounds like? You're right. That's exactly.
I'd like to not to.
Oh, it's well, John Wayne. They asked him to do one, and he said, "I can't carry a tune in a bucket," so he didn't do it. He did it, but he didn't. He did like little vignettes where he spoke. He spoke all of it, and then they played music and stuff behind him, and it was something inspirational.
Mm.
And one of the ones that caught national attention when he did it was called "The Hyphenated American." And he talks about that if we're going to be a people, we can't be a hyphenated people. We can't be a Jewish American or an Irish American or an Italian American or a German American or he said, this is a hyphenated. If I put the emphasis on the German or the Irish or the whatever, then I'm separating myself from everybody else. And he said, we should just let that go and be an American. And it doesn't matter. You can be proud of what you are, but if I'm an Irish American, that's why I'm really proud, and you're a Scottish American and you're really proud, that could be a problem between us, right? So he's saying, be proud of who you are, but don't put that out there so that it's going to cause a problem for you and somebody else. Just be an American and love every other American because they're an American. So what Screwtape here is saying, do this. He's encouraging him to do the same thing with Christianity. Be a hyphenated Christian. Be a Christian who has a cause. Be a Christian where the cause really winds up being the focus of what I'm doing. I think I've shared with you a little bit. In fact, I did it last week in church. This person that I know, friend that I know, who told me I didn't know what I was talking about when I said that Jesus said, love your enemies. He is a Christian, he says, but his Christianity is just a tool. It's a tool to further the other thing that he's doing. So it's not, he's not a Christian because he wants to worship God. He's a Christian because it furthers his cause. So being a Christian is just a tool. That's all it is. And that's what Screwtape wants more than anything in the world, is for someone to be ardent about their faith, like he is. He's ardent about his faith. He's obnoxiously ardent about his faith. But it is absolutely, utterly for the purpose of being used as a tool. There's no substance to it at all. Nothing.
What is he trying to use it for?
It's a political. He's a very right wing. So he's saying that this is the will of God, and this is the person that God's choosing, and it's all. And then after saying that this person is the person God's choosing, and this is the Messiah from God, and all this other stuff. At the very next thing, he says, "Oh, and these are the people we have to kill them all. We have to kill all these people because they're all bad, and they're doing bad things, and they're all terrible people, and they're wrecking it for us." And I said, well, how do you square that with Jesus saying in Matthew, you've heard it said, love your friends and hate your enemies, but I'm telling you to love your enemies and pray for them. And he said to me, he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, Billy, but you don't know what you're talking about. You must be a really bad priest. No kidding. That's what he said. You must be a really bad priest. And I said, I didn't make this up. And he says, yeah, it doesn't say that. And he never said that. That's ridiculous. He'd never say something like that.
What?
Yeah. So
Go in the Bible.
I said, I got the scripture lesson. I sent it to him. I sent him the quotes. I sent him the paraphrase. I sent him everything. I sent him a bunch of links to Bibles he can buy that aren't mine. Because then he said, well, if that's in your Bible, then that's one of the Bibles that people make, so it says stuff like that.
What?
I said, just buy any Bible. I said, look at all these Bibles. I picked them up on Amazon. Buy any one of them. Buy one, and I'll pay you back if you buy it. And you just go to it and read this. And I said, there's a lot more. Next time we talk, why don't you read that and get back to me and tell me what you think? And he never mentioned it again. He wouldn't talk about it when I got back to him. He'd always change the subject. But what he will do is he will go right on with what he originally said. He will go right back to that thing like Jesus never said that. It didn't hit his radar because he just shoved it down. That part of Christianity doesn't support his movement. So he's not going to give that any credence. It's perfect. Screwtape's just like, wow, it's wonderful. That's exactly what Satan wants. Christianity is just a tool. That's all it is. My belief system is just a tool. This thing right here in the beginning, when he said the life force, the materialist magician, that was Stalin. Yeah, Stalin had his world was focused on the materiality of life, right? Although he said it wasn't, because it's a communist country where everybody owns everything, but we know that's not true, right? And his whole goal was to build everything bigger, he wanted to encompass Europe in his perfect living way. And he frequently spoke about what we would kind of translate to manifest destiny, where there was a power that propelled the Russian people and the Russian machine to become this greater thing. So he believed in forces, or in, something larger than himself that was propelling him forward, but his whole focus was on the material world. Materialist magician. He's using Screwtape's using the word magician here to represent somebody who's looking toward magic, some kind of power, but no deity that would direct it. Just power for the taking. And I can claim to be a spiritual person. And we have that all over the place. People who are claiming to be spiritual, but they're not identifying what that means. Like, if we were in a desert and I said, well, I love the water. You'd be like, what water? Show me the water. It's like, no, the water. I have the water. You're like, you think I was crazy, right? I can't believe that spiritual people are believing in this spiritual thing, but with no definition. What is a spiritual thing? I was talking with somebody a little while ago. I said, what, you don't believe in God? No. You don't believe in like Jesus or anything like that? I said, no. I said, but you believe in like spiritual, you're spiritual and you have like attuned to the universe. I said, yes. I said, well, is the universe power good or bad? He said, well, it's neither. It's not good or bad. I said, I said, okay, so the power is not good or bad. So it's just power, like electricity in the wall, right? So that means that I could be spiritual too, and take all that power for myself to do bad things. But that would have to be good, because it's the same power. The same power that you're saying is good that people should get, I can take the same power and use it for bad and say that's good. There's no morality. There's no way to determine this thing. It's simply like the force, it's just out there. You can do with it what you want. There's no upper brain function going on here. It doesn't compute, doesn't work, but there's no thinking about it.
Yeah, well, with those, or did you ever ask them where they thought the power came from?
They don't know. It's just there. It's just there. It's just floating around.
Oh, and it's like people that drive electric cars that think, they just have to plug into a charger, not knowing that a lot of that electricity comes from fossil fuels.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, and we still need gas pumps. I've seen videos of generators behind the scenes powering all these charging stations for these electric cars. And it makes me laugh. I'm like, what do these people think they're accomplishing?
Yeah. Well,
Virtue signaling. Look at me, I'm better than you because I don't drive a gasoline car.
I did a wonderful, I'm being very conceited there. I did a class, right? And the way I did the class, I really shocked everybody, because when the class started, I came out completely dressed head to toe with the red bodysuit and the tail and the horns.
Is that what you're going to be for Halloween?
Oh, you should have seen. I mean, I wish I had a camera to see the faces of the people when I was actually hiding in the closet. So when they introduced me, they thought I was going to come in the room, and I came out of a closet, which scared everybody to start with. They're like, "What the heck is he doing in a closet?" And then I'm coming out wearing this complete leotard devil outfit, and my horns lit up too. It was really cool. And my point was that we were talking about evil in the world and the evil influence, and I was saying, as I talked, as the night went on, it was about an hour and a half talk about it, and as I went on, I just casually started pulling stuff off. Like in the first 10 minutes, I just yanked the horns off and put them down over there. They blinked, which I wanted it to do to keep people's attention. And then a little bit, I pulled off the gloves and put the gloves down and kept talking. And a little bit after that, I pulled the tail off and dropped the tail down, and I kept talking. Then a little bit later, I pulled the top of the leotard off. I just kept doing it. So by the time I got done, I said, "So you want to know what evil looks like? Here I am." And I was just dressed like everybody else. I had a shirt on and pants, and this is what evil looks like. If you go around thinking that evil looks like that red thing that I was wearing when I came in, then you'll never ever see it, because you'll never see that. That's a joke. This is what it looks like right here.
But you can go too far with that, because if you go around thinking everybody and everything is evil,
Oh, sure.
then you are going the opposite, the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Or the other way.
Yeah. That's that golden medium. It's finding out that golden medium. But if I try to find the golden medium between a normal looking person and a guy in a leotard, my medium is all skewed. It's got to be the person dressed like a person and the person dressed like a person, and there's going to be a medium in there. It's just to get that idea of that caricature out of the picture, which of course here Screwtape is saying that's exactly what we want. We want the evil to be, whenever you go to watch a movie and it's got Satan, and Satan is this, horrible, ugly, terrible thing, that's a joke. Satan is a beautiful angel, right? The most beautiful. Lucifer was the most beautiful angel. He's not giving up his beauty. Why would he do that? He's the same. So if you saw a beautiful angel, you think, oh, it's it's an angel, it's wonderful, but it could easily be Satan. And you have to find out by what you're being told, by what you're
where did these images come from?
which ones?
Of the
Oh,
red devil with the head horns and
Dante's Inferno. He's really the progenitor of all of our understanding of hell and the way that we understand it. The 7 layers of hell going down and people getting dissected and being alive and getting burned and all this other stuff, and all the torturers are all demons with tails, and they look like those little monkey things in the Wizard of Oz, coming at them. And Satan is horns and tails. That's him.
Have you seen The Good Place? You watched that series? Did you watch the series The Good Place?
Only part of it. I haven't watched it in depth.
You need to watch that.
That's a good example, because the angel and the demon, they're just regular guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't tell the difference.
What was that series, Catherine?
They can't take their suits off though. Apparently they have like a human suit.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. It's called The Good Place.
Oh, I thought for a minute you were talking about The Good Omens.
Oh, is that it? That's what I think it was. What's The Good Place? Oh, The Good Place is the place where they're going. Ted Danson is in that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking.
I need to find that because I haven't seen that one. I've seen The Good Omens.
I had to get through like episode 5 because I don't know. I didn't love it, and I was like, and somebody said just make sure you get to episode 5 or 6. I don't know if it was 5 or 6, but anyway, then you go, oh, okay, yeah, this is good. I understand now. So
I don't think I made it that far.
you have to get through those first few, because the first few just don't really make any sense, and then it makes total sense in episode 5 or 6, and then it's good from there.
I'll have to watch it again because I'm pretty sure I stopped at 4.
Yeah.
What channel does it show on?
I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah,
Okay.
I only have Netflix or Amazon Prime, so it would have to be one of those two.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So the last little thing about that, I think what we've been talking about is the Screwtape saying conceal ourselves or let ourselves be seen. So you had that in the Middle Ages, you say people would say that they saw demons, and one or two things would happen. Was the least favorite thing is it would make people go to church. So it's counterproductive for Satan to show Satan's hand, because it drives some people right into the church. They're afraid. When you see something supernatural, you can't defend yourself against it. You need a supernatural defense. So if it's evil, go to church. Everybody does that. So Satan has a much better vested interest in being hidden and not doing that. And there we are.
There's something in I think it's God's Not Dead in that movie, where the guy's mom has Alzheimer's or whatever. She's not there.
Right.
But he goes and sits with her, and all of a sudden she has this clarity of mind and says, well, Satan has a way of making people comfortable and wealthy, and because this was her son, and he was horrible. He was a horrible person, but he had everything. He had this sports car, all that he could ever ask for. I think he said to his mom, how come I'm doing so well when you had your faith and you're sitting here like a vegetable?
Yep.
And she just had this crazy clarity of, moment of clarity where she said, you're being very fooled by the devil, basically.
That scene echoes again Lewis's view where he says in several different books, but the one I'm thinking of is Mere Christianity, The Problem of Pain. He says hell is locked from the inside. That people that go to hell lock the door. They're where they want to be. And what they want to be is who they are. And what get, according to the Christian faith, what gets you sent to hell? Right? You don't turn to God. You don't care about God. You don't want God. God's nothing. You don't believe in God. You got yourself. You're yourself. You're all about yourself. Well, when you get to hell, what is there? It's you. So you get exactly what you want. You want yourself. You're not gonna. That's why he says people, if they're gonna change and embrace God, they're gonna change. But like in that movie, the mother says it's too late. You get so comfortable with the life that you've gotten that you exclude everything else, and pretty soon you're trapped in your own birdcage, and you don't even know it. So she was saying exactly the same thing. I thought it was brilliant. Maybe we'll watch that little clip next time.
Yeah.
See it. It's really brilliant. It's a brilliant clip. Really is.
It is. It is.
All right, guys. So we're all the way up through 6 and 7. We're on 8 next week.
Okay.
Outstanding. All right. You'll have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You
Okay.
too, Father Bill.
You too.
I'll pray for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Please do.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.